Hello and welcome to Raider HQ After Dark. I'm your host, Raider. And in this video, I wanted to kind of do a deeper dive into the previous video about how to strengthen your private medical opinions. So this is a follow-up part 2 video to that. Now, before I get started, what I did want to say is I need to do more of the YouTubey things to ask for you guys to like and subscribe the videos and all that kind of fun stuff, and to tell you guys that these videos are not for entertainment. This is mostly for education. So that's why they're going to be longer. They're not going to be cut into smaller pieces because they're meant to be long. They're meant to be watched from start to finish, hopefully, if you want to. But mainly, my goal is to put out videos so that way it could be said that the information has been disseminated to the veteran community. Now, whether or not people want to watch, they want to listen, they want to whatever, that's up to them. And hopefully you guys can share with friends, family, whatever, uh, about the videos if you want to. So that's enough of that YouTubey stuff. Now, moving on to what we talked about yesterday. So in the prior video, I had talked about strengthening your medical opinion, and I kind of went over some submissions by some of you veterans to my email account, and I kind of wanted to go over them. So I'm going to revisit that and share my screen, and this is the one from yesterday. If you haven't watched the prior video, the Strengthening Your Private Medical Opinion Part 1, I suggest you do that now before we go into Part 2. And the reason why is because I had spoken about, just a little recap, but I had spoken about how, the evidence, the way that this particular template, and I can't tell if this is AI that did this, like somebody had asked AI to do it, or if this was actually given to the veteran, but this is not ideal as to how it's constructed. Now, if the veteran created this themselves, I doubt it because it's written in such a way that it looks like it's a template, you know. And I had spoken about how the evidence that was submitted is formatted in a very wonky way that causes, you know, uh, at least the examiner to be a little bit confused, and for sure the rater. Now, the reason why I'm back here is because I wanted to segue into, I kind of talked about what this would look like for the examiner. I want to talk about what it would look like for the rater. And the main thing that I would have an issue with on this medical opinion, even if it was signed correctly, if it was written this way, it wouldn't, even if it was positive, it wouldn't likely pass the rater's evaluation. And the reason why is because there isn't a sufficient rationale to match the evidence, right? There's no report of the ER visit here, right? There's a report of job duties, but there's no connection here that the job duties are what caused the ER visit. If you go back in the prior video, you'll see I went through that, but there's no real causal association here. And that's what a nexus is. It's a linking of the evidence of injury in service. So there's no, for element 2, which is the in-service treatment injury / diagnosis, there's no linking between the job duties are what caused the ER visit up here. So if we go up here, actually, let's go here. Treated at the ER emergency room, injured. Well, how were you injured? This is the part where, it might say it in the STRs, but if you're guessing and leaving that up to I hope it's in the STRs, then that reduces the likelihood of success, right? Because you're not really promoting a nexus. You're not really promoting, this examiner is not actually associating. It's actually almost saying that there's 2 separate injuries. Now, why does this matter to the rater? It matters to the rater that in the event of, if this was a VA examiner who did this examination, we also use the same criteria for private DBQs, in that you have to have a medical opinion. It would be deemed insufficient, right? Because this is the insufficient exam. So reports. I would deem it insufficient if a medical opinion is not properly supported by a valid rationale or by the evidence of record. A valid rationale for me would be that this would need to be due to the ER visit. I don't care how you became injured in the service. The injury has to be such that it caused a chronic disability. As long as it, and I said this before in the other video, as long as it's not willful misconduct, this particular, like you could maybe say that, you know, the heavy lifting of the boxes and bending and carrying continually, repeatedly after my initial ER visit injury, it made it to where I couldn't heal. And I kind of said this in the last video, but this is that would be a rationale, right? That it exacerbated this condition. What condition? You know, and I know I say that a lot, but so for this one, I just wanted to shore it up and just talk about how, like, what going back to the rater, what they could pivot to even if that was a positive medical opinion, they could discount that medical opinion. And they could discount it because the rationale, the causal rationale as to how, you know, even just on its face, that the medical opinion for a chronic disability happened. But the one thing that, you know, they're saying that the veteran's current lumbar condition was caused by, there's no rationale for that. There's no, you know how raters have a problem, and VA examiners have a problem when something happened 20 years ago and there's no evidence to support that in between period between when you got diagnosed currently and that original onset. This does nothing to shore that gap, right? Like, it doesn't do that. And that is what is needed. I guess that's the best way that I can put it. So whoever made this template forgot to do the most fundamental, foundational thing that a medical opinion needs to do, is to create a link or a medical nexus between then and now. So this template on its face doesn't do that. None of the documents before do that. None of the documents afterward do that. The best thing is this buddy statement. Since that time, I've observed. See, but the examiner needs to say stuff like this, something that links the then and now, but it doesn't do that. So I'm done with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go on here to an AI Nexus letter that I was given. So I'm going to say, and I've talked about this in other videos, what AI is good at and what AI is not good at. Okay, AI is good at formatting certain things, but AI creating a process for you is not a good idea. So we're going to walk through this and I'm going to talk about why it's not a good idea. So this appears to be an instructional AI generated document to give to your healthcare provider. I'm not against this. What is a Nexus letter? I mean, okay, I like this. We need to sometimes educate the private providers as to what the context of what we're asking them to do is. This is good. I like this because a lot of medical providers were never in the military. So it's hard for them to conceptualize what the VA wants because they're looking at it from a medical standpoint and they need to look at it from the VA standpoint. So this is actually pretty good. Establish a link between the current condition and their military service. Okay, I mean, on its face, this passes with a C. Importance of VA disability claims. I don't understand why this is in here. So this doesn't seem to be, like, if you're giving this to the examiner, the healthcare provider, they don't care about this. So this could be cut out. Required standard of proof. The VA uses an at least likely as not, which means there is an at least a, nope, this is wrong. There has to be an at least a 51% probability. The equipoise situation is for the rater's review, not, well, I guess it is for the examiner. That the tie goes to the veteran situation is kind of meant for if you have one negative medical opinion and one positive medical opinion, the tie will go to, in equipoise, the tie will go to the veteran. But the tie doesn't go to the veteran when it comes to a medical opinion. The examiner literally has to be 51. It is at least as likely as not. That would be 51% or more. So this is wrong. So it has to be 51% or more certain, because if they're 50-50 certain, then they're not certain. It's a tie, right? And the tie in this situation, medically, the tie doesn't go to the veteran. It has to be that the examiner is convinced that this could be the cause of it to some degree, to a 51% degree. This is not the minimum standard, actually. So this is at least as likely as not is a 51% certainty. Understand the full spectrum of probability. And once again, the AI does not get this right. It has to be to a 51% degree of certainty. This is fine right here, but more than 51% certain, right? Because if you haven't sided with anyone, I'm 50% on your side and 51% on your side. Whose side are you on? You have to be 51% certain of something. So I'm going to keep saying that. So for a positive nexus opinion that helps veterans claim, please use either at least as likely as not. This is fine for educational purposes to give the AI is doing a pretty good job here to inform the examiner as to what the boundaries are, because the examiners have to color in the lines that they might not be familiar with. So this is fine. The VA will deny claims with a less likely or not. I mean, I'm fine with saying this, but we also don't want to poison the well, right? Like, note the draft letter content provided below has been pre-written to use an at least likely as not standard. Adjust as needed. Okay, I mean, cool, but once again, it's like you're writing it for the examiner. This right here does not need to be in here. Examiners do not need to know about the legal precedent of Wise v. Shinseki. They just need to, like, so far, the problem that I have with this so far is that it's talking about the legal requirements of you saying, yes, it is connected, but it's not really telling you the medical, like, please be medical, this means that you do not need to have absolute scientific certainty. I mean, that's fair enough. Once again, 51%, not 50%. Your professional judgment, even with some degree of uncertainty, is sufficient to meet the standard. Yes, but you have to provide a rationale. You have to provide a medical rationale. So AI missed that particular component of what makes a DBQ or medical opinion sufficient. It has to provide a rationale. How to complete this letter? Okay, this is actually kind of nice. Review the veteran's medical records. Solid. I don't disagree. Service history provided to you. Now, I would expand upon this. Cite it in your rationale. Cite the medical records. Cite the history. Provide something more than just, my name's Bob, and I think this is due to that. That's the quickest way to get denied. You have to, like, I need something more than what I, as a human being, could provide. I could write that. I think it's at least as likely as not that John's elbow is related to his, leprosy. What we need, okay, now this, I have to be clear with this. This is very important. Okay. Very important. And I don't know why it turned blue, but it's very important now. It has to be evidenced by something. My medical opinion says A caused B, evidenced by, and then they have to regurgitate the evidence that supports their medical opinion. Okay? They can't not have the evidenced by section. You have to have the evidenced by. So, yeah, this portion is lacking. So the AI template here failed to do that. Fill in all the highlighted sections marked in yellow. Okay, this is getting a little, yeah, I don't necessarily like that. I like the professionals to write their opinion. Yeah, okay, yeah, provide a rationale for your opinion based on what, okay, so actually it does. So I would like to see more. Explain to the examiner what that looks like, right? What's the medical rationale? Provide scientific evidence to support your basis. Please sign and include your professional credentials. Okay, well, this right here would fail you because there's a requirement for private providers. I've provided this in other videos, but there's a minimum standard for the information that the examiner has to provide, like their NPI number, their medical license number, their credentials, their phone number, their address. If they don't do those things, if they just sign and include their professional credentials, the VA can't consider it a private DBQ or medical opinion as being sufficient because it doesn't meet the criteria. Language suggestions. Okay, I haven't read this yet, but let's get into it. Consider using phrases such as, oh my gosh, scary. Based on my examination and review of the medical records, is nope. That is not persuasive or probative. Based upon my examination and review of the medical records, evidenced by, and then you have to say what it is in the medical records that you found persuasive to come to a 51% degree of certainty on something. You can't just say hashtag because. You have to explain it. You have to justify why it became 51%, or else it will stay 50-50, and 50-50 equals denial. At least as likely as not has to be to a 51 degree of certainty, which means you have to prove your case. You have to prove it medically. This is how sometimes raters can overturn your medical opinions. If you just say, yeah, based upon my examination and review of medical records, it's at least as likely as not. Why is it at least as likely as not? How did you overcome the 50-50 threshold? What sold you on it? I know I'm repeating these things, but the repetition is how I've trained raters historically. You have to look for the words that are used. You have to, is it convincing? Is it persuasive? I'll take anything if they just make it persuasive to me. That there's a bad side to this too. I want to take the time to also talk about the bad side of this. So the bad side of this is when you come across a situation where somebody wants to talk about, an examiner wants to talk about how it's scientifically possible that jet fuel could cause sleep apnea in veterans, right? Which sounds great, right? It sounds persuasive on paper. Sometimes the DBQ mills will go with that, and they'll give you a book report, right? But I want to know why jet fuel caused this specific veteran to have their specific sleep apnea, right? I don't know. I don't want to know. It's possible I could win the lottery. Have I? No, I haven't won the lottery. But it is possible technically. But how is it possible that I won the lottery? Like I need you to tie those things together, right? But that's something that, and hopefully this doesn't do this later on down the road, but when you get to the book report medical opinions, that's how you know. If they don't cite anything about you specifically or your STRs or your treatment records currently, then that's a failure. That's a denial in the future. You have some raters that will look the other way and they'll say there'll be a checkbox that says yes, at least as likely as not, but it is an error for them. If the rationale is not there and it's not supported, they can get a quality error, and your grant can actually get overturned by a quality review on them. Now they only get 3 a month, but technically it could happen, and it's not sufficient. It has to have like I have helped try to challenge QMS errors with raters that are under like I'm QRT liaison, so raters that would come to me and maybe not even on my team and say, hey, can you help me try to overturn this QMS error? And I'm like, I technically can't because they're not wrong. You didn't actually they didn't provide a rationale. So their quality error, unless you can find where they provided a rationale in their medical opinion, that QMS error will stand. It will be confirmed. So let's keep going. The veteran's condition is at least likely is not the result of, and then you should explain it. I wish this would spend more time talking about that. In my professional medical opinion, there's at least a 50% probability that medical literature support. Okay, what medical literature? So don't do this. If you see this in your thing and it doesn't actually cite the medical literature, that's a failure. That will not pass a rater, any good rater at least, because they'll get an error. Supports the connection between so and so and so and so. Okay, but does it support in this case? How does it support? How does medical literature support this particular condition and this particular service member's related factors specifically and explicitly? It has to go into that level of detail. But moving on. So, causal relationship between the chronic back pain and bilateral radiculopathy, immobility, subsequent obesity, and or a worsening of sleep apnea. Okay, so the problem that I have with this is, does this statement match what the examiner said or the actual medical opinion that was provided? Does it actually match, right? And it has to match, because if this statement right here goes off on a tangent that has nothing to do with what the examiner said, then that's what we call incongruence, right? And the DBQ itself will be deemed insufficient for rating purposes, right? Or the medical opinion, I should say. It would be deemed insufficient for rating purposes if the examiner statement and this statement are off balance, right? And we're also talking about tone here. Who's saying this particular statement? Is this the veteran saying the statement? Is this the veteran's representative saying the statement? And the development or worsening obstructive sleep apnea in veterans. Okay, once again, now we're talking about veterans again. We're not talking about this veteran. Basically, this statement right here is, hey, did you know that stubbing your toe could hurt your foot? Okay, did you stub your toe? Did you hurt your foot? Like, this is just telling me something that could technically happen. It's not persuasive, I guess is what I'm saying. Veterans experience higher rates of activity limiting musculoskeletal disorders. Okay, did this veteran have, like, what's the evidence to support that this veteran had activity limiting musculoskeletal disorders? Evidenced by what? Evidenced by the weight that they gained? Can you show weight gain over time following a diagnosis of a condition? Did there, are they a $120? What are we talking about here? Like, what evidence supports this? I don't get this specific situation, which contribute to reduced physical activity. Okay, thank you for the book. This is the book report. This is what I'm talking about with the book report. This doesn't prove anything related to this specific veteran. This is not persuasive to the examiner. It's not to the future examiner who will review this DBQ, because it will get tossed. This DBQ, or whatever this is, would get tossed. Probably. Because it probably wouldn't meet, it would be seen as incongruent, and it would probably get tossed. And then they'd have to go for a new examination. Okay, is obesity a major factor? Is the veteran obese? Why didn't we lead with that? Like, the veteran is currently obese due to their... You don't need to make this wordy. Like, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, this is like trying to say something to sound more intelligent than you are. And I still don't know who's speaking. Who's meant to be speaking? Is this the veteran meant to be speaking, or is this somebody else? Is the examiner supposed to say this stuff? Because the examiner has to be contained to their own particular knowledge about this veteran, right? Because the examiner is going to be the one that makes the medical opinion. So they should use this particular thing in their medical opinion to explain why this specific veteran's condition is caused by these specific conditions. But you don't need to tell that to the rater. And this is what it sounds like they're talking to the rater, and it doesn't make any sense. The evidence demonstrates a clear and medically, is it clear? What in the name of, I don't like this personally. Do not tell me something is clear, right? Because how do you know it's clear? Whoever's speaking in this context, how do you know it's clear? Evidenced by what? Medically recognized chain of causation. Oh, is it medically recognized? Evidenced by what? Service-connected muscular injuries, immobility, obesity. Okay, yeah, technically that's true. Technically, stubbing your foot can cause you to have toe pain. Did the veteran stub their foot? How is this veteran's toe pain worse than other people's toe pain? Severe obstructive sleep apnea. So here's where we get into the diagnosis. Review of the veteran's medical records indicates a history of service-connected musculoskeletal injuries. Once again, we're kind of rehashing the same thing. This seems like a wasted opportunity to give me dates and times on when this happened. So there was a chronological order. Like what I would want to see here is the veteran was diagnosed with the back in 2020 or 2010, let's say, the joint dysfunction in 2012. The veteran gained 10 pounds since then. The veteran had subsequent chronic back pain issues and re-diagnosed with from, thoracolumbar strain to IVDS. Once following the IVDS diagnosis, the veteran gained 35 pounds. Give me something to work with. Give the examiner something to work with, the future examiner that's going to have this. Because it's not going to be found persuasive. Treatment includes physical therapy. Okay, when, where, and how? Oops. Let's go there. Physical therapy, analgesic medications, lifestyle modifications. Of what? When? Where? How many cookies? The resulting increased body mass. Now we have a body mass index increase. And altered sleep patterns. I hope that the veteran doesn't have a mental health diagnosis, because this statement right here, if read by the VSR, could be persuasive enough to show that the veteran's attempting to claim that their sleep issues got worse, so they could actually take this statement right here and schedule you for an increased exam for mental health. Be careful with the words you choose. Are documented in the clinical notes. These factors are recognized as contributing to the development of obstructive sleep apnea. No. Altered sleep patterns don't actually contribute to sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a anatomical, depending on what it is, it's either an anatomical or neurological. So your sleep patterns have nothing. I mean, technically, could you have nocturnal arousals that cause you to wake up to a certain degree that you stop automatic breathing? I mean, I guess technically yes, but is that true for this veteran? Right? I mean, we're making statements here of OSA and potentially maybe a neurological version of, I don't know what that. We're inferring a lot of stuff in here without, I don't even know if this is part of the veteran's background. These factors are recognized as contributing to the development of obstructive sleep apnea. No. Sleep patterns do not, no, typically no. Maybe not. I don't know. Establishing a causal chain from the service-connected injuries to the current does it cause a causal chain? Where in this does it cause a causal chain? Is there any other potential, this is going to sound stupid, but I like it when somebody tells me or says it in a thing of, hey, look, I have no other predispositions for my weight gain. I know that seems like a very stupid thing to say, or potentially not a very probative thing to say. But when you're talking to the examiner, it's one of the most powerful things you want to say to try to get to the 51% degree of certainty. Is you want to say, look, I have no other predisposition. I don't have diabetes. I don't have any of these other factors that could lead to it. So in my mind, my current, sedentary lifestyle due to my service-connected disabilities has caused my particular, you know, overweight, and my overweight caused my obstructive sleep apnea. Now you have to keep in mind, in this example, there are two separate medical opinions that have to be done, and they both require the at least likely as not. Is it as least as likely as not that the service-connected disabilities cause the weight gain? And is it as least as likely as not that the weight gain caused the sleep apnea? If both of those two separate medical opinions are not of record, this veteran's going for a separate exam. So this doesn't really provide much. Severe obstructive, oh my God, a medical analysis? Who is this from? Is this from the doctor? Provider qualifications left blank for the doctor. Okay, medical analysis. The causal relationship between OSA and obesity. Okay, yes, it is well established in literature. It's well established in literature. Dogs have fur. What does this have to do with anything with this specific veteran? Once again, this entire paragraph right here does not matter for VA purposes. It is already established that being overweight could cause sleep apnea. It's true. I've granted it before, so it's technically true. Who are you proving this to? The fact of the matter is you have to prove that the actual veteran in question's circumstances caused them to be overweight, and that in this specific veteran circumstances, that the overweight caused them to be, or to at least have, sleep apnea. This one's going to be a long one, guys. Chronic low back pain. Okay. Nobody cares. Like, I want to know why this veteran's treatment records, cite this veteran's treatment records. So let's do this. Let's go with this. Okay. This is something that you provide after you've proven that this veteran's situation. I mean, like, did the veteran gain weight? We have yet to even say that the veteran's obese. I don't know, guys. I can't with this. Obesity is a principle. Fair enough. Not persuasive. I would skip this. Obesity contributes to the pathogenesis of OSA. Wow. Okay. I mean, cool. Upper airway anatomy fat deposits. Okay. I mean, this is fine. Is the veteran fat? For the love of the merciful heaven. You haven't even got to the point that the veteran's obese yet. We're what? How many pages into this am I? I don't even know. Anyway, it's covered by my sharing screen thing. Ventilator. Okay, like, once again, nobody cares. The rater doesn't care because it's literally just a couple of boxes checked on a DBQ. Like, this doesn't prove anything. Like, this doesn't prove anything. Service-connected injury, chronic pain, bilateral radiculopathy leads to pain. Don't care. Here, we're gonna help out. We're going to help out. I need to know why the veteran is obese, right? I need to know why the veteran is obese. This causal relationship between obesity is well established. Yeah, it is well established. We rate it all the time, so it doesn't need to be said. Like, this is something that we understand. But there's a difference. Not every single obese person gets rated for sleep apnea. That's why we need a medical opinion to say why the specific veteran's circumstances caused it. Chronic low back pain. I mean, this is, I guess, okay. But did it cause? Like, what evidence in their record? I keep saying it. I'm just going to scroll down. I'm not even going to fix this. This is just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Both obesity and OSA are associated with the risk of cardiovascular disease. So now we care about cardiovascular disease. It's like saying things to say things. Secondary obesity, OSA, anatomic, physiological, nobody cares. Physical inactivity leads to obesity. True. Is it true for this veteran? Like, we're not putting somebody on the moon here. All we need to do is say the veteran is obese due to their service-connected conditions. Show it to me. Show me their weight. Show me the gradual trek to obesity, how they became to obesity, and how it could be due to nothing else other than their service-connected conditions, or more likely due to their service-connected conditions. Nobody is debating this. That can have a causal link to obesity. Nobody's debating that. Yes, it is. So if we were going to a book fair or a science fair, yes, you could make this claim that yes, OSA and weight gain is great. How does it for this veteran? Is this veteran even obese? We haven't even stated that yet. Like hopefully the examiner stated it, but whatever this is just insufferable. I wouldn't. I mean, like, ugh. AI generated stuff is sometimes not the best. Does the veteran have significant immobility? Okay. If I find anywhere that veteran doesn't have significant immobility, like, right, like if the examiner said like, hey, he came walking into the room, touched his toes, whatever, I don't. I mean, I try not to look for things that overturn, but if you don't choose the words correctly, then if I can find something that contradicts the words that you chose, oh man, that's my alarm to say that I need to stop talking soon. So, but if the words you chose do not, if they cause us to have to find any kind of incongruent statements, that's what you want to be careful with. You know, if this isn't true for the veteran, then I'm going to discount it. Like this entire thing, which was, it appears to be AI generated and it wasn't. Yeah, no. The evidence demonstrates that chronic back pain and radiculopathy are associated with reduced physical activity. For this veteran, do they have impaired gait? Do they have, like, these have to be true. Every time you say something like this, it has to be true for that specific veteran. And it hasn't been proven to be true. So you're relying, every time you do this, it creates a vulnerability in your medical opinion because the examiner has to mirror these statements for them to be true. So the moment that they're not true, then I have to send it back to the examiner and go, hey, it said that there was decreased spinal mobility. Is that true? Or impaired gait is actually the one that I'm going to take issue with because that's needs to be reported somewhere. If this isn't reported somewhere, then it's a vulnerability for the medical opinion. Sometimes saying less is actually more. Keep that in mind. And now my family's screaming. Obesity, in turn, is a well-established risk factor for sleep apnea. Okay, true. I mean, that's true. This is fine, I guess. Visceral fat. Okay, does he have visceral fat? Does he have all these other things? Hold on. All right, sorry. Dogs came back into the room. They went out for a minute, but I'm almost done. So, okay, so visceral, does he have visceral fat and neck circumference issues? Does this veteran have this? Like, I can't stress this enough, guys. Like, this is why, like, these look well written, but they have to be tailored to you and your body and your specific circumstances. When you get an AI thing like this, it doesn't help you any. It actually hurts you because the moment that I can pick apart any of this, because I have to account for each one of these, you have visceral fat, you have waist circumference. Like I have to account for these things, and I don't understand why the AI does this. Furthermore, veterans are at high risk of both obesity, limiting muscular. Yeah, okay, true. Therefore, let's go here. Therefore, based upon the current medical literature and the veteran's clinical history, which we failed to even mention one time throughout this entire thing, we failed to mention anything about the veteran's history and make this veteran-centric and not book report-centric. It is at least as likely as not veterans' obstructive sleep apnea is proximally due to or aggravated by. Okay. So sleep apnea is proximally due to or aggravated by obesity, resulting from service-connected conditions and chronic low back pain and radiculopathy. So chronic low, would you two knock it off? Dogs are... Anyway, that's about all I got for you today. Raider out.